I haven't done this series in a long time. Wasted Potential, Ron the Truth Killings, R-Truth. Now, R-Truth, someone who's still going today. Today he's kind of used in a very limited role. He is older. I think R-Truth might be 50 or around 50 years old. He's still in great condition, great shape, what have you. But I don't enjoy the way his character is now. It's a bunch of buffoonery and coonery. It's token black guy sitcom, the dumb black character on My Wife and Kids, the son Junior, the dumb character on Moesha, Kim, the Parkers, Kim, the dumb character, Good Times, JJ, the dumb character. Like, so R-Truth is that. Was McMahon watching Good Times in the 70s? So he thinks R-Truth is James Jr. Whatever. Hit the like button. Wasted Potential. Now R-Truth, he came up in his early 20s, in the early 90s, as trying to be in the entertainment business. And he wasn't trying to be a wrestler. He was trying to be a rapper and a dancer. And, he got to certain places, certain levels. There's a great picture of him online where he actually did meet Tupac Shakur in the early 90s. But that's what he was known as, traveling around the country, trying to get on in the music industry in the 90s. But towards the late 90s, it's kind of fizzling out for him. It was much harder to make it in music then than it probably is now. That's another debate for another channel. But he finds his way into professional wrestling. Now, he did grow up watching wrestling. In the 80s, wrestling was so huge. Even if you didn't like it, you knew who Hulk Hogan was. You knew who Piper was. You knew Andre the Giant. At least you heard of World Wrestling Federation, NWA, something. So, in the late 90s, R-Truth, he starts to get into wrestling. He always had a great physique. He was a dancer, whatever the case. He had conditioning, footwork, all that. That helped him in wrestling. Now, he begins his wrestling training, and when he develops his training, this is around the time when the Monday Night Wars is on fire. The World Wrestling Federation, WCW, ECW, wrestling is pretty much big globally. Mexico, AAA, CMLL, All Japan, New Japan. ECW was doing exchanges of talent and tours in Japan. The ECW tour where Sandman went over and all that, whatever the case. Onita, all that. So, when R-Truth gets to the World Wrestling Federation, this is at a time where, it's pretty much 2000 when he's going to make his debut, and he pretty much was on Jacked and Metal. Now, for those who might not remember or be too young, WWF had, the main show was Raw is War. Then the second main show was SmackDown on Thursdays on UPN. And they had Sunday Night Heat, which was a major show before SmackDown, but then that kind of became like the extra show on a Sunday. And, in 2000, Sunday Night Heat, I always loved Sunday Night Heat until they completely destroyed it. But I loved Heat in 2000 because that was when it was like Taz and Michael Cole. Taz used to say that Heat was his show. And they did like the commentary from WWF New York. I loved the show. It was a bunch of mid-card matches, but this is a time when WWF's mid-card was on fire. I actually have a VHS tape from 2000 when I was a kid of Sunday Night Heat. I believe it was November 5th, 2000, I believe. And this is when like Right to Censor and the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian, all that. It was tremendous. And also, a side note, I have a lot of the VHS tapes from back then, 98, 99, 2000, even like 2002, 2003. A lot of the fun of watching it is obviously you're watching the classic wrestling of, that era. But also, like, even the commercials back then were great. They had, like, great Nintendo 64 commercials. This is like when PS2 just came out. Fila, foot action commercials. Just a beautiful time. This is back when wrestling, the sponsors were Castrol GTX and Burger King flame broiled burgers and all this stuff. Windows 98 and what have you. It was tremendous. So, they also had a show at this time, 2000, called Jacked and Metal. I believe Metal might have started, I believe they might have started both shows in 99, I'm not sure. But in 2000, these shows, it depended on where you lived. Now, where I lived, I think, I think we got Jacked. Actually, I can't remember. I think where I live, we didn't get either one, but I used to go, when I was a kid in 2000, I used to go visit one of my aunt's houses, and her cable always got Jacked or Metal, but it used to come on at like 1:45 in the morning. I was like, what the hell is this? But, and then I remember that's how I got introduced to someone named K Quick. So, R-Truth, first name in World Wrestling Federation was K Quick. I believe it was also K Crush, maybe before that, I believe. And it was kind of like, who is this guy? And this is the blackest, darkest motherfucker I've ever seen. But he was a great athlete. He looked different. But this was kind of a time in wrestling where if you weren't like super, super, super over, you kind of didn't care about the wrestler. And this is a time in 2000 where like literally the entire roster is over except for like S.A. Rios. Like Crash Holly is getting a giant pop. You know, the only wrestlers who weren't over were like Viscera, Midian, and S.A. Rios. Godfather, Hellacious Pop. Even Right to Censor with that annoying siren. You know, they get tremendous boos. So when you're kind of a new guy and people don't know you, which I guess is true in anything really, the new person, you're kind of like, who is this? Where's the stars? But he was a great athlete. He had a completely different look. And then I remember watching him. I used to think, this guy is good. Why is he still on Metal and Jacked at 1:45 in the morning? When are they going to put him on, like, at least put him on Heat? And then I think they put him on Heat. And then I was like, okay, at least put him on, I mean, Raw has so much talent, like Raw and SmackDown, you know, but it's like, you know, put him he could do something. And then eventually they put him with the Road Dogg. And a lot of R-Truth, or K-Quick at the time, they kind of wouldn't let him talk. But then he started getting little quick segments. Like he had a segment in late 2000 with Kurt Angle backstage, which looking back at it is kind of funny because it's like, here's kind of like a new nobody and you're putting him with Angle and Angle's like the world champion. It was like a quick, like, comical segment. But the only way you could really hear him was he started doing his song Get Rowdy. Now, R-Truth, obviously, he's known for his entrance, the What's Up song, but he had a song called Get Rowdy, which to me is a way better song. But that's kind of how you heard his voice. And he had a unique entrance. They used to like change the cameras, and it's kind of like, it kind of made you nauseous. They used to like do these camera shifts and movements, but he slightly was getting crowd reaction because his entrance was unique, and they put him with Road Dogg. The problem is, hit the like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the Cash App in the description, check out my other channels in the description. The problem is, when they put him with Road Dogg, this is when Road Dogg was probably the heaviest in his drug addiction. And Road Dogg was unmotivated. He cooled off, but he cooled off because this was a time in wrestling where, I don't want to say they didn't bury people, but it's kind of like you got pushed based off of how hard you worked. Road Dogg was one of the most over people in wrestling in 98, 99, maybe even early 2000. His push did kind of get hurt because Billy Gunn got hurt. I believe that in early 2000, the New Age Outlaws were in a feud with the Dudley Boys. And the SmackDown before No Way Out 2000, I believe the Dudley Boys, they were in a match with Billy Gunn and Road Dogg. And Billy Gunn did a famouser, and he came down wrong, and I think he tore his rotator cuff. So then, like 3 days later on No Way Out, they did a match, and I think he aggravated his arm again or something like that. And basically, he was written out for months, and he was gone. So Road Dogg, who they tried to push Road Dogg and Billy Gunn as singles in 99. If you remember, that's when Billy Gunn had the, you know, Mr. Ass gimmick, and then Road Dogg was kind of like the hardcore champion. But the New Age Outlaws, to me, they're the best tag team in the company's history because they sold the most merchandise and they were the most over. And they helped build the Attitude Era. They were great. I always loved Billy Gunn. You know, Dolph Ziggler's favorite wrestler, Billy Gunn. But when they were singles, they were just missing something. There's something about Billy Gunn and Road Dogg when they're not together. Is something is missing. You know, you didn't really have that with Edge and Christian. You had that with the Dudley Boys a little bit. You know, eventually Bully Ray was like a great character in TNA, but like some tag teams, you know, they need the other half. The Hardy Boys, you know, they were kind of good separate. You know, when Matt Hardy had the V1 and Jeff Hardy, obviously, you know, he became a main eventer or whatever. You know, the Rockers, Marty Jannetty, not the same without Shawn Michaels, but Road Dogg and Billy Gunn were like that. So Road Dogg's push kind of got destroyed after Billy Gunn. They put him as a tag team with X-Pac. Him and X-Pac, I don't know, something was missing. Like, they didn't really, like, they're friends in real life, and they were in DX, but them as a tag team, I never liked them as a tag team. They put Tori. So when you get to late 2000, Road Dogg's put with K-Quick. They really did become friends. And maybe that's why they were put together. They became friends. I believe there are stories online, you know, they used to rap, you know, talk about rap music because Road Dogg, he always loved Snoop Dogg. That's where he got the Road Dogg. He always loved Snoop Dogg. He loved the Doggy Style album. A lot of Road Dogg's catchphrases came from Death Row albums. And they bonded over music and also their love of marijuana. Now, and this, I believe this was a time when you could smoke marijuana in WWF, excuse me. So they bonded. But when they put this tag team together, Road Dogg was having his personal issues, and eventually the company fires him in, I believe it was late 2000, maybe early 01. So then it's kind of like K-Quick. They didn't know what to do with him before that. Then they put him with Road Dogg. Now they're back to, okay, you're going back to metal and jacked and heat. So they never really did anything with K-Quick. And then, you know, in the Invasion, you could see him in some backstage segments when they have like the group segments of talking or screaming. But they never did anything with him. So he leaves the World Wrestling Federation, and in 2002, when Jeff Jarrett begins TNA, Ron the Truth Killings, he goes by that name now, and he joins NWA TNA. Now, if you go back and watch the shows, and I do believe TNA has the early shows on their channel, like, you know, you're starting a new promotion, I would have went with him. You know, at the beginning, they had Shamrock, they had Scott Hall. You know, Scott Hall, he just got fired for being Scott Hall from World Wrestling Entertainment. But you should have went with R-Truth, and they did at the beginning. He became like the first black NWA world champion, I believe. And then he was like a face at first, and people liked him. But then in typical TNA fashion, people like you, so turn you heel. So they turn R-Truth heel, and then R-Truth becomes like an angry black militant in the South. Why? Now, the things he would say in his promos are true about the racism and bigotry in wrestling, but nobody wanted to boo R-Truth K-Quick at this time. They wanted to cheer him. He was very charismatic, great physique, great athlete, unique moveset, but they turned him heel. They should have kept him as the face champion. So they wasted his potential in the World Wrestling Federation. They looked at this guy who was completely unique, did nothing with him, allegedly tried to, but then Road Dogg messes his career up, so then now we don't know what to do with you now. But that's what happens when you have old white males like Bruce Pritchard and McMahon and Patterson and Briscoe running the show. You're not going to relate to a young black man, please. Or even a Mexican. You know, they always struggle. To this day, they struggle to push people who are not white. That's just a fact. I mentioned S.A. Rios. They didn't know what to do with S.A. Rios. They for a long time, they didn't know what to do with Eddie Guerrero. They didn't know what to do with, they don't know what to do with Nakamura today. They've always struggled to book people who are not white. How about you bring in Hispanic writers, black writers, Asian writers? No. We're going to have Michael Hayes. We're going to have Michael Hayes write for you. Yeah, that Confederate. Hit the like button. Share this video. Subscribe to the channel. So when you get to 2002, now, they are pushing R-Truth because he is, you know, I just keep calling him R-Truth because they might try to demonetize if you keep saying what his real name was. So R-Truth, they are pushing him as the champion, but he's a heel, so he's miscast. So you're wasting his potential. He should have been a face. People didn't want to boo him. As a booker, how could you not see that? And then eventually they take the belt off him because in the Vince Russo era of wrestling, which in the WWF, this is another video I have to make. The pros and cons of Vince Russo, and really, I love Vince Russo's work in 98, 99 WWF, but something about WCW and TNA is just what the hell is this? And it's not that nonsense. This might be a Wrestling Lies episode. They were filtering him. No, they were not. No, they were not. Something about him in WWF was just way better. It wasn't no filter. That's a lie. Because if McMahon was the great filter, why has the company sucked since Russo left for the most part? The great filter has been there this whole time. Why have the ratings gone down for 20 years? But that's another video on my other series. But in the Russo era of TNA, like every other era, he always has to change the belt, change the belt, change the belt, heel turn, face turn. So they take the belt off him and they go, I can't even remember. Like they kept, Jarrett got the belt. I think maybe, did Jerry Lynn win the belt? I don't know. I think Jerry Lynn might have got the X Division title. Vince Russo's booking causing me to drink. So, pretty much R-Truth, he just kind of like floats into the abyss of the TNA's roster at the time. And then I believe when you get to 2003, 4, 5, one of them years, it's kind of a blur, that TNA era. Then they reunite R-Truth with Road Dogg and now Conan, and they made one of the most entertaining groups, I think one of the most entertaining groups in wrestling history, 3 Live Crew, which was a play off of 2 Live Crew, Uncle Luke in the 90s. 3 Live Crew, a great group. I love their segments. They had tremendous chemistry. And of course, in typical TNA fashion, they have to break this group up or not push them properly. Or when Billy Gunn comes in, now Billy Gunn is somehow feuding with the group and he's pulling Road Dogg out. Why? Whenever something's good, somebody has to, let's change it. Wasted potential. R-Truth's career has been a career of, he has everything, but we don't know what to do with him. And then somehow he falls into something good, but then let's change it. And then he's back to doing nothing. And then he finds something good, but then let's change it. And then he's back to doing nothing. And then it's been the same cycle his whole career, no matter where he went. Wasted potential. Not of his own doing. There's stories you could find where he constantly told management, I have this idea, I want to do this, let's do this. And they just would never do anything with him. He was not disrespectful the way Conan was. He wasn't a drug addict like a lot of wrestlers have been. He was ready to work. He had no weaknesses. He has great charisma, athleticism, everything. He was always going to get over because his theme song is him rapping, and he could really rap. And his music was a call and response. That's why today, to this day when he comes out, the crowd is going to react to his music. How do you not take advantage of this? But that's his career. So when 3OK is ended, once again, he's kind of like doing nothing in TNA. And they had him, I don't know, they tried to do like certain goofy things with him that weren't going to get over. And they probably did bury him. And then word got out that he wanted to go back to WWE. And when that word got out, I remember thinking, they're not going to do anything with you. They didn't do anything with you in 2000. You think they're going to do something with you in 2008, 2009, whatever year it was? But he returns to WWE. I believe he returned on SmackDown. He brought over his song, the What's Up song, and got him over almost immediately. And he became like a solid mid-card figure. And he was over as a face. He was a fun baby face. And he had a solid role. I believe he might have even won the U.S. title. I can't remember. And then eventually, I think you fast forward to 2011 and they turn him heel. And they turn him heel into this goofy delusions of grandeur character that he's been from 2011 to right now as I speak, going into 2024. Little Jimmy. All of a sudden, he turns heel one week and he sees some invisible child named Little Jimmy. And out of nowhere, he gets pushed as a heel and he faces Cena on Capital Punishment. And this is around the time where I believe CM Punk did his pipe bomb the night after Capital Punishment. And he's made like an upper mid-card heel. And then they have the horrible build-up to Survivor Series where it's going to be R-Truth and Miz versus The Rock and Cena. And that pay-per-view did a disappointing buy rate, but that's because the powers that be, the same powers that didn't know how to use R-Truth, the same powers are running the company, but they didn't know how to build up the pay-per-view. So when the buy rate came back bad, they blamed R-Truth and The Miz for the bad buy rate. No, it was their bad booking to Survivor Series 2011 that had a horrible buy rate. You have The Rock coming back. He's teaming with Cena. They destroyed the build-up to it, which killed the interest in it. It was Madison Square Garden, CM Punk versus Del Rio for the belt. It should have been a big show. I believe Nash appeared. This is when Nash was doing the storyline with Triple H, where he damn near breaks Triple H's neck the next month at TLC, or something like that. I don't. No, I think it was the month before. I think Nash ran in on Night of Champions, and he like power. It was either Night of Champions or Vengeance, and he powerbombed Triple H on his neck. And then they had some horrible ladder match at TLC 2011, and Nash got written off. But the poor buy rate Survivor Series 2011 did, they blamed it on R-Truth and The Miz. It was not their fault that you didn't build up the pay-per-view properly. It was not their fault. So basically, since then, they lost faith in R-Truth as being a serious character, even though it was their fault. And that's why he's been in this same role for the last 12, 13, 14 years, whatever it is, since 2011. This goofy mid-card role, and it's more goofy than ever. He had the 24/7 title, which they copied the hardcore title. They try to like copy the Crash Holly, you could win the title on the golf course and all this stuff. But he was always a good talent. He always had, what you needed, but he was wasted potential because bookers and writers in this business didn't know what to do with him. And with that said, I'm up out of here. Hit the like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Please donate to the Cash App. A lot of these videos are from donations. Salute to people who donate. Salute to the new subscribers. And look out for my next uploads. Check out my previous ones. I'm up out of here.